Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex, and this is Big Baby Reviews. Today is Friday. Hope you've planned a great weekend for yourself. It is Tom McFarlane Day, so we're looking at the next issue in the Spider-Man run from the early 1990s. This is issue 9, cover dated April 1991. Guest starring Wolverine. We know that last issue when we looked at the last review of Tom McFarlane last week. Wolverine was present on that last page, right? Kind of foreshadowed for this issue. Going to talk about Tom McFarlane's writing and his art as well, but I do think that Perceptions is probably one of the better Tom McFarlane stories, honestly. When we get to Spawn, you'll see there's a lot of repetition with Spawn, and the same kind of situations happening over and over and over with a lot of narration. I still think on this series here, he's still fairly succinct when it comes to his dialogue. It's not too bad. There's not too much to read. He's getting stuff over with newspaper headlines and stuff in the storyline, which is, he's probably aping a little bit off the TV and stuff from Dark Knight and whatever. But to do it on a newspaper, as newspaper headlines, it's a little bit different. At least back in the day, right, before digital media and stuff, right? Newspapers were still fairly relevant, I guess. Not so much today, I would say. And so what he does with the first Perceptions last issue, we know Spider-Man, it's his title. He doesn't really have to establish Spider-Man. So it's basically to get Spider-Man to the situation. And he establishes a situation, which is that these children are being found, and the police suspect that it's Wendigo, who's kind of like a Bigfoot character up in Canada, is killing and mutilating these children, right? So Spider-Man is kind of sent off to be photographer with a journalist who's into finding out, investigating what's happening up north in British Columbia. Hope, British Columbia is where the story takes place. So issue 2, as you foreshadowed Wolverine in the last issue, is kind of used to establish what Wolverine's role in this storyline will be. So, not so much on Spider-Man in this issue, more of establishing Wolverine. Gonna start on the cover. Pretty good cover for some reason. Nothing really amazing going on, but I do remember this cover. It's kind of, for me, a classic. I'm going to talk about McFarlane's representation of known characters, right? He's pretty consistent with Spider-Man, right? Because Spider-Man has a simple look and stuff. There was something I always loved and also kind of hated, and I guess I just find it interesting with Tom McFarlane, is this lack of consistency sometimes with some characters. So with Wolverine, you'll see throughout this issue, and I mentioned it, I think, last issue, his representation of him changes from panel to panel and page to page, and sometimes it's really cool, and other times it's odd and he makes odd choices, but I also like that. But it's the lack of consistency that annoys me. But the fact that we get different versions almost of Wolverine, even within the same comic, is fun, I guess. So I'm always kind of, those two sides are warring within me when I look at this comic and Wolverine and how he's represented by Tom McFarlane. Because he is Tom McFarlane, so you assume he's doing a cool representation of Wolverine, and sometimes it works and sometimes maybe not so much. But the fact that he tries different stuff is still fun to me. So I guess that takes over the negative aspects of it. Other artists really work on that consistency. He just works on emotion and effect and design, I guess, more so than being consistent from panel to panel. That's what I feel anyways. I could be wrong. And I like the interesting kind of color choice of a green here with the silhouette here of the Wendigo in the background there. I think that's pretty cool. It's pretty interesting. Wolverine himself, I'm just going to mention, like, how ridiculous. Again, this is what I'm talking about, but the different ways he represents Wolverine. The claws are pretty proportionate. I think that's cool. He's not going over the top in this image, at least. You'll see some examples in the comic, but the size of his headdress here is, the headdress, the part of the mask, it sticks out, just so huge and exaggerated, like, to be hilarious. If someone was walking around with this on their head in real life, we would probably laugh. That would be our first reaction. And also that he's just ballsy enough to kind of half-ass it a little bit. If you really pay attention, it's like this one's bigger and more, there's something that doesn't work in the 3/4 shot there, but who cares? Because overall it looks cool, and we like the McFarlane and the McFarlane details, so our eye just kind of accepts it, right? And that's part of, I talked about with Rob Liefeld, I think, in yesterday's episode, about how just like Jack Kirby, he knows the basics and stuff, and then just twists them and turns them and uses certain lines and creates that Rob Liefeld anatomy and aesthetic, right? Tom McFarlane kind of does the same stuff. especially around this period, right, in the early 90s when he's doing Spider-Man, and then Spawn, because not so much today, because I've seen some of his drawing process. I wish Todd would just go back to drawing, I have no problem him drawing on a tablet, but I wish he's using a lot of photo reference and stuff, and tracing over pictures, and I really just want the old classic imaginative from your mind Tom McFarlane. Not that it's bad to look at reference pictures, and I get, I do too. I like box cars and stuff like that, but it's not what we want to see from Tom McFarlane, right? I think those of you who are into Todd probably agree with me. Hopefully, if you don't, or if you do, let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think about that. McFarlane's recent art that we've seen versus the old school style, right? Let me know what you think. Let's have a look inside. Talk about some Wolverine. So Tom McFarlane, pencils, ink story. Rick Parker, letters. Gregory Wright, colors. And Jim Salicrup. Okay, I need to follow my rules and no editors. McFarlane smartly gets through this page very quickly with just a bunch of silhouettes here of trees in the forests of British Columbia, setting us up, establishing shot really in multiple panels, and then just zooming in and 2 black panels with a bit of a light splash here, right, which we're going to find out, I guess, on the next page what it is. And I guess that's what he sees once his head hits the ground, possibly. So we get a cool shot of Wolverine here amongst the leaves. McFarlane creating those different layers, the foreground character here in the hand and the gun already, and then each of these branches and the leaves, kind of pushing Wolverine back, creates those extra layers of depth, and he's hitting it with those shadows like we saw last issue. So he's doing a good job there. That's a great. There's something a bit manga-ish, I find, to this here. So maybe he kind of took it from a manga comic he was looking at. I don't know. This underlit Wolverine here, right? So here's an example of where Wolverine looks really cool, I think. And you can tell he's still drawn that kind of hook nose that he had last issue, right? So I feel like he's going to be using that hook nose pretty much all the way throughout. But maybe it'll change, because like I said, that consistency sometimes just is not there. Even here, I feel like, he's almost taken away some of his jaw, but it makes Wolverine look a bit older, right? Before the movies and stuff, Wolverine was meant to be a little bit older than all the other characters. Maybe he looks like 40, 50-ish. So I think McFarlane's kind of playing that up here, making him look old and gristled. Yeah, so there's that hook nose again, right? So interesting, bold choice that he's got for Wolverine. So that's definitely part of the McFarlane version of him. Just a simple drawing like this, like how great is that silhouette, right? The Wolverine's posture and the character on the ground, the body language, and a bunch of trees. Very simple, super effective. I think that's great. The weird way in which he twists like the muscles in the arms and stuff. It's almost like Wolverine's got more of a... I kind of feel like I know what he's going for with Wolverine's bicep here. It's like old man bicep. If you ever seen old men who are just slightly cut or built a little bit, right? It's like they lose a bit of the top and the shoulder's kind of small, but the bottom of the bicep... Anyways, I can't be the only one who's noticed this. I feel like even if we go back... Where was it? I guess it's on the cover. Yeah, he's kind of doing it here too. I don't know if he's consciously, and if that's an exaggeration, but I feel like that's what he's doing. Maybe I'm seeing too much into this, but... Another thing you'll notice here from the shot here, just the tooth already. He really plays up Wolverine's sharp teeth. And even adds some, because the McFarlane way, he doesn't draw necessarily realistic teeth and the exact number of teeth humans have. You'll notice that sometimes there's, the regular canines are sharp, or too sharp, or very sharp. And then sometimes there's 2 or 3 sets of teeth that are sharp. So artistic license. I feel this is a very McFarlane kind of beat in the comic, right? McFarlane feels that, this guy's so intimidating. He just has to point and doesn't have to say anything, right? No further words are spoken, none is needed. So like, get the fuck out of here is what he's saying, right? With the arm. It's a very McFarlane touch. Another great silhouette, same kind of principle as the page before, right? And of course, Wolverine, I gotta say before I move on, the coloring in here, the simple kind of mostly monochromatic blue here, I think is great and works really well to give you that sense there at night. Very simple and effective, just being lit by the moonlight, I guess, because every McFarlane comic has a full moon, right? Or pretty much all of them. Something about this panel I think is really cool. This kind of shot here in the foot, which I think maybe is, again, kind of a manga-inspired thing that McFarlane does. I continue to say I think McFarlane was looking at that stuff, definitely, and taking some things from that, which is fine, right? And so Wolverine basically in the stories run up to this guy's truck before the guy himself and carved "You Promised" on the side here, right? Because he wants, basically Wolverine wants him to tell him to stop people going hunting animals and stuff in the woods, because they think those are the creatures that are hurting the young boys in this town of Hope, Alberta. What was I looking for again? All right, no matter. McFarlane, you know, we get stuff in a McFarlane comic we can only get in a McFarlane comic. We wouldn't get in other comic book stories, like this whole diatribe on this guy putting ketchup on a donut. I don't know if he came up with that just by himself, or if he has a friend or someone he knows, or he saw someone in a restaurant putting ketchup on a donut. It's just something McFarlane wanted to mention here. There's something, McFarlane's got something about donuts, right? Because Spider-Man later on is going to be eating donuts in an issue of Spider-Man, and then Spawn, I think Sam and Twitch, Sam eats donuts all the time. So yeah, McFarlane has a thing for donuts. So here he is with the reporter, right? And they're just kind of discussing the case and the murdered children they found and stuff. Love this down shot. I think is really well done. McFarlane's really kind of mastered this more now, and he's good at these kind of things. And even with keeping in touch with the cartoony style, the proportions and things and the way he places things is good. It's almost like I'm looking at George and Jerry on Seinfeld at their diner from this angle, right? Another good vertical 90 shot with a good crop here of Peter Parker. So, bottle cracks in through the window. So we've got some people kind of protesting outside. You know, they're tired of all this murdering and stuff. Someone leaked out that they found over 100 dead animals. So the Greenpeace groupies are exchanging opinions with the Rambo types. Oh, gotcha. So there's the people who want to, you know, go hunt the animals and save the kids, and then the people who are there to save the animals, right? Top it off with the nosy reporters, and we've got us a day that me and the missus can be proud of. And another way in which McFarlane, you get a bit of Canadiana in this issue, is this old man talking about, you know, he mentions to Spider-Man that this critter out there is Wendigo, right? Like the Bigfoot. Says he's talking about Wendigo. He says, "Of course, no one wants to listen, especially them Yanks. Guys seem to steal everything. Our pride, our exports, and the worst of it all. Here's the Canadiana. They even stole Gretzky from Edmonton. What kind of hockey player would want to live in sunshine all the time? I tell you, boy, he was brainwashed." Yeah, money can brainwash you very easily. I'm pretty sure he got a crap load of money to move to LA, right? That's probably what it was. But that's something, yeah, on the West Coast, they've never really accepted that, right? They loved Gretzky. He was a Canadian. He was playing the Canadian team. It was not so much of an issue here in Montreal on the East Coast, because back in the late 80s, early 90s, we had the Canadiens, the Canadians, and they were doing pretty well back then. Haven't really won since the 90s, but back then we're doing pretty well. So, you know, the Gretzky loss maybe was a good thing for some of the Eastern Division teams. Anyways, moving on, we get another cool shot. At this point, McFarlane is just super adept at them of Spider-Man, and I just think he's having fun with them, and he's very oftentimes cropping things again. Same thing he's doing those vertical panels, but he's cropping and using the bleed on the outside, and I think he's doing a fantastic job of that. He's got the inset panel here, right, with the big black border, very 90s, but you've got bits of Spider-Man's leg here, the fist with the webs coming out here, the knee on this side, the webs down here. Really pushing it in as far as the graphics and that 90s kind of style popping out of the panel, right? And I love that stuff. I think it looks, again, this, you know, commercial art, I guess is what you could call it. This another shot that could be on a t-shirt, right? A promo shot. And we've talked about this before. Marvel was using all those cool McFarlane shots for all of Spider-Man's promo back then. This is a cool shot too, hanging upside down, right? McFarlane was good at having Spider-Man do spidery things. There's that full moon we were talking about. Again, using that webbing to create that extra layer of depth in the foreground, the panel popping, the character Spider-Man popping out of the panel, even overlapping this panel just a little bit, like just little clever bits that just every time you do this and then you add this and you have these popping out, every time you add one of these, it adds that extra bit of layer and believability, right? The fact that the world continues outside the frame, right? Interesting choice here of this reflection in the window. Like, it's very graphic and kind of different and not what I would expect from McFarlane, but I do think it works. It's very cool. There we go. Getting some exposition here from the police and this reporter here talking to the police. Spider-Man kind of spying in on them, listening in. Vertical panels make it a little more interesting. We get a close-up crop again. This cop always kind of portrayed, you know, slightly sinister, right? We'll find out later why. I'm just throwing that out there, you know, because I know. Got some interesting choices here. We've got Spider-Man, and all the buildings are silhouetted out, I guess, because, you know, we're in British Columbia and you're not in Hope, British Columbia, which is a fairly small town. You're not in New York City, so, you know, everyone's gone to bed, the lights are out. And that's a good reason to have just silhouettes and get through these very quickly. But I think it graphically works really well. It helps with the negative space being black and back here and stuff and continuing behind these panels. And you just got a fun kind of very spidery kind of Spider-Man pose there. Spidery Spider-Man. So he basically sets it up to where he can meet up with this reporter to get more information as Peter Parker. And that's basically what happens here, right? And she's obviously asking questions that the police don't want asked. So what is going on? We'll find out soon enough. It's a 5-part, so we're going to have to be patient. This is part 2. Great shot of Wendigo here once again. All the organic stuff, the forest. Todd McFarlane obviously lived in British Columbia, so a lot of this is very accurate foliage, if I can say that. Coincidentally, I lived in British Columbia as a kid as well. I lived on Vancouver Island in Victoria, so I can attest to, you know, I lived on the military base there, and we can go play. There's like a whole section that was just, you know, trees and forest basically that we would go play in, the military college, and it looks a lot like this, I gotta say. Back to Wolverine once again, mostly done in silhouette on this page. Get through a page real quick, but at the same time with Wolverine it makes sense. He looks cool, right? It's nighttime. It's got the sharp teeth here. What a great kind of squatting shot here. I like just that little bit of light reflection and then mostly silhouette. We've got the McFarlane where usually he leaves this open for a color, but he's actually filled it in with parallel lines and shaded it in with that, which I feel works much better than when he leaves it open for like a color and the colors kind of fills it in. So here's what I mean. We're talking about varying versions of Wolverine within the same comic, different looks, and you know, the look not always being 100% consistent. This here, you know, if I can call it peak McFarlane Wolverine is what I'm looking for, all right? And we'll get some more shots kind of like this where he looks like this, but I just think that is, you know, what McFarlane should have been going for all the way through. Looks gristled enough, but still looks masculine and strong. Just something about, you know, the way he's represented here, I think works really well. Some of the colors are a little dark. You know, the brown here maybe could have been just a little bit lighter so we could see some more detail work that he's doing down here, but can't win them all. So they finally, what's going on here is they've tracked him. Oh, look at that. I think that's just very cool. Simple, effective. You can move on and just works really well. Even the establishing shot here, like that's quickly drawn. You can get that through those 2 panels, you know, within 10-15 minutes at the most, and then move on. So this guy is some sort of animal hunter, you know, big prize hunter, so he's found the Wendigo. And of course, one of them shoots, right? And all done off camera. So, you know, McFarlane's basically getting through a page here of storytelling of, you know, on this page, Wendigo gets shot, right? And let's say that's his plot. Well, he's just kind of really pulled it off quickly here with minimal detail and stuff. Very simple kind of graphic representations. And then he can just spend the rest of the page working on a cool Spider-Man shot, which he does. This is another great pin-up Spider-Man shot that he's done here. Looks awesome. He's done this kind of interesting designy background, which is, you know, what McFarlane does. He's still got massive amounts of spiderweb going out of the panel and out off the page, right out of the bleed. Just a really cool graphic page once again that he can probably draw pretty quickly and get done. And of course, we got the result. Wendigo clearly enraged. The headline, Bigfoot everywhere. Could there be more than one? In the Marvel Universe, I assume there's more Wendigos eventually. Originally, there's just one, but you know, any concept they're going to multiply usually at Marvel, anything that works. So something I always wondered about the shot of Wolverine is back, you know, in the early 90s when I actually read these and I had these copies, I got rid of them, and this is a newer copy that I got recently, right? So my copy I had before, I always wondered if someone had gone in with a pencil and colored in like some, I don't know if you can pick that up on the camera. There's a bit of gray in the eyes and in the teeth here. And I was like, oh, wow, like, you know, back when it was very important for comics, my comics to be mint or whatever. So that kind of annoyed me. And now seeing this copy here, I realized that I guess it's just some weird kind of misprint or something happened there with the printing. And I want to say this hand, I think it looks really cool, but the thumb is ridiculous, right? But that's kind of again, something Kirby would do sometimes where the thumb just looked weird and ridiculous, but it doesn't really matter because it really works with kind of the slightly wonky bit of dynamics and action that McFarlane's worked into this. And see, the Wolverine mask once again is just not on model here, and I do feel like the eyes are really low set as well. So once again, lack of consistency, excuse me, but just a cool kind of pose and vibe to this angry Wolverine shot, right? Because he knows they've shot the Wendigo, and clearly, as you know, Wolverine's not happy about it. So there you go, guys. That is Perceptions Part 2, which is issue number 9 of Spider-Man. Let me know if you have any answers to my questions or comments. Let me know in the comments below. Those of you who are still subscribed and still watching, thank you so much. I appreciate you still being there. Those of you who are watching who are not subscribed, please do so. It's really quick for you, and it really helps the channel out. It helps get us out there to other like-minded people who might like the same kind of videos and comic book content. Thank you, everyone, for watching. I hope everyone out there has an awesome day. King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at kingcomics.ca, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.
Like! Subscribe!